Today I want to talk to you about time management. It's one of the biggest issues that people tend to have in general, whether you're an employee, whether you're an employer, whether you're a business owner, whatever it is that you are doing with your life. Maybe you're not even employed at all and you're not working anywhere. If that is your case, go get a job, but if you're of age. But nonetheless, time management is a struggle. No matter what the situation you have, if you're in school and you're not working, time management is one of the biggest problems that people tend to have. And people always ask me personally, since I am a father, I have a family, I have a full-time job, I'm doing a business, doing so many different things, and at the same time, being able to be consistent on social media with my business and being able to continue showing up for my business, showing up for my family. And they ask me, how is it that I'm able to manage my time? I even ask myself the question all the time. The fact of the matter is that what I'm doing is I'm not really sitting down and managing my time per se. What I'm doing is tracking it. And there's a difference, because when you sit down and try to manage your time, you try to figure out how you're going to do these things within the time that you have. But instead of sitting down and focusing so much on what you're going to do with the hours that you have, if you sit down and you actually track it and you actually begin to say, I'm spending this much time on this, I'm spending this much time on that, I'm spending this much time on this, and you begin to keep track on it and you begin to reduce the time that you're spending on different things, you will begin to find that you're able to do much more and be much more productive. I want to talk about the 168-hour audit. There are 168 hours in 1 week, in 7 days. If you subtract 40 of those hours, if you have a full-time job, you're at 128 hours. If you subtract 56 for 8 hours of sleep at night, right? You have 7 days of the week, and let's say you sleep 8 hours, which most of you probably aren't even doing that. But let's say you're sleeping those 8 hours. You have 128, and you're subtracting 56. But on top of that, you want to subtract 14 for eating and driving, right? We all have to do that. You have 58 hours left after all of that. If I take out another 20 hours for my wife and 4 kids, I still have 38 hours of raw time, uninterrupted leverage that I have to be able to do whatever else I need to do. So I took care of food. I took care of being able to eat. I took care of sleeping. I took care of my job, and I took care of my family. Now, I've taken care of most of my responsibilities. I still have 38 hours. If you don't have kids, the reality is that you have those 20 hours back. So what does that mean? You have 58 hours. Where am I going with all of this? If you look at your phone, you look at the screen time and the settings, right? I know that everybody knows how to do that. If you look at the screen time, you are literally scrolling away your freedom. The 38 hours or the 58 hours, if you don't have kids, that you would have if you sit down and start trying to manage your time, you start trying to figure out how to organize everything in the best way possible, and you just sit down and track the amount of time that you actually have throughout a day, and you sit down and actually look, all right, I have this much time to spend. I'm going to dedicate 5 hours on this, 5 hours on that, 6 hours on that. If that is what you begin to do, you'll begin to find that you have more time in your hands. Now, the issue is, again, what I said a little while ago. Look at your screen time app. Be realistic with yourself. How much time are you just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and just giving up your time just like that? Time is extremely valuable. So we need to sit down and we need to think about that. And that is, I think, the biggest aspect of where people struggle with time management. Now, let me pause real quick and have you understand that if you are exhausted from clocking into your 9 to 5, but you refuse to quit on your family's future, if you want to be able to give more for your future and give more for your family and be successful and be wealthy, hit the subscribe button. We grind together on this channel. We figure out how to make it, how to be successful, and how to build wealth. I'm going to go through my entrepreneurial journey and give you tips and tricks of what I have been able to learn in this journey that has been very difficult. And at the same time, things that you can apply now actively to be able to begin your business, be able to succeed in your business, and be able to make some money for your family and for your future. Let's get back to it. When you have a chaotic life, you can't rely on 4 hours of deep work. You need to master, again, what we've talked about before. You need to master what it is to track your time. You need to master the 90-minute sprint. My kids go to bed at 8:30 p.m. From 9 p.m. to 10:30, my phone goes on airplane mode. My phone goes on do not disturb. My notifications are completely turned off on my phone. Quite literally, I have turned off notifications on almost all the apps on my phone because I don't want apps notifying me of when to go and visit their website or their app, but instead, I want to go visit it when I want to visit it. I want to visit it not because they told me, hey, come visit me, right? Like Duolingo does to me all the time. But instead, I turn it off and I visit Duolingo whenever I want to. And as much as you might think that these notifications are important, in the end of the day, are they more important than the other things you could be doing? And that is the question you need to ask yourself. The 90-minute sprint. Again, putting your airplane mode is going to save you so much time. I don't design logos. I do one thing. Outreach. I send 20 DMs to local business owners. That 90 minutes of focused execution is worth more than 8 hours of fake work. Again, sitting down, track your time. I'm giving you an example. If you have 38 hours, like we spoke before, and you know you have 38 hours, divide those 38 hours in between what days? And sit down, look at the days that you have. Let's say Monday, you only have an hour and a half. Let's do that 90-minute sprint. Let's sit down, let's put the phone on airplane mode, and let's sit down and let's just get to work. And if maybe you only have 60 minutes, but those 60 minutes, you focus on what matters, right? Mondays, you focus on outreach. Tuesdays, you focus on whatever social media stuff you need to do. Wednesday, you focus on whatever other side things you need to do. If you need to do more social media, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if you work Sundays too, then you sit down and you work on outreach. You get those clients, because those hours of work are going to be so much more important than sitting down and doing a bunch of things for 8 hours and it just being a bunch of nothing. It's just being a bunch of focus on things that don't matter when you should be sitting there reaching out to people, trying to get clients. The biggest struggle with time management, we recap, is the fact that people are trying to manage their time. They get focused so much on all the struggle of how they're not doing this and they're not doing that. And instead, if they just sat down, they track their time and they look at the time they have and how they're spending that extra little time that they have left at the end of everything, they'll be able to realize how much more efficient they could be if maybe those 38 hours, I could give 8 hours. 8 hours of actually working on what I need to work on instead of just giving 1 hour in a week and rushing and procrastinating all the time. That is how you beat the issue of time management that many people have. And you set up little moments where you sprint and you run and you focus and you just grind on it without blinking and looking anywhere else. And you just work and work and work, even if it's just 30 minutes, and you get that done. You maybe take a break and you get back to it. And that's how you sit down and you begin to develop more success when it comes to your time management. You track it, and you give it slots of time where you know you can focus on that time without being distracted. And as you go, you begin to develop it more and more. When you begin to get better at mastering that 30-minute sprint that we were talking about, we talked about a 90-minute sprint, but let's say you start with a 30-minute sprint and then you begin to take it to a 60-minute sprint and then you begin to take it to a 90-minute sprint. You begin to increment those times as you mentally can focus more and more because you've mastered one and you master the next, and you gradually begin to master higher levels of time so that you begin to upgrade the amount of time you're dedicating on your business and the amount of time that you're dedicating to whatever it is you need to dedicate. So begin to build that gradually as you go. Begin to track your time instead of getting so caught up on the mess of trying to manage everything that you do end up doing nothing. One of the things that's so underrated that people don't realize is so important to time management is what you call KPIs, key performance indicators. In other words, a goal. When you set yourself a goal or a KPI and you set yourself a goal for 1 hour and try to accomplish that goal, that KPI in 1 hour, and you hit that within the hour, you begin to realize how your time management boosts, right? If you started in January with a KPI of calling 10 different clients and just doing 10 different cold calls within an hour, and you were only doing 5, but by February, at the end of February, now you're hitting in that hour, you're able to hit 11, you're beginning to realize that you hit your KPI, that you're hitting and you're improving. Begin to improve on how you track time, begin to improve on how much time you're dedicating in moments, those 90-minute, 30-minute sprints, 60-minute sprints, 45-minute sprints, whatever works for you and you need to do, and you begin to increment on those, but also how you begin to improve on your KPI, how much you're able to really focus and just dig in deep in those 30 minutes that you're dedicating to a sprint, right? So sit down, set up KPIs for your 90-minute sprints or whatever it is that you're doing that works for you. This is how you begin to organize your time management. It's not by sitting down and saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to do these 3-4 tasks. I'm going to post on social media, edit videos. I'm going to create thumbnails for my YouTube channel, and I'm going to at the same time do outreach. And then you begin to manage all of that, and then you get nothing. Because of what Dave Ramsey always says, you get paralysis of the analysis. Don't be that person that manages things that gets paralysis of the analysis. Be the person that tracks it and actually produces key performance indicators, produces KPIs, produces goals that reach further, that accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. Track your hours this week in 15-minute blocks. You will be disgusted, literally disgusted of how much time you're dedicating to things that are so unimportant, things that are complete waste. Look at your screen time and realize how much time you're wasting just there. Fix the leak that is going on. Fix your time management issue, because if you want to succeed in business, you need to be a person that dedicates good time to the things that matter most. You need to understand how to manage your time, especially when you start a business. Fix the leak. Let's get to work. And remember that your path to freedom comes through what you do now, what you do today. Get to work, get the grit, get organized, and begin to accomplish the goals that you've been wanting to accomplish. See you on the next one.